Who you call, where you travel, what you buy. The government can already collect that kind of information on you, even if you are not a terror suspect. And now we can keep all these personal details on file a whole lot longer. Under the old rules, the government had to destroy private information after 6 months. But Attorney General Eric Holder signed these new rules that expand that time period from 6 months to 5 years. And I want to welcome Charles Allen. He is the former Undersecretary for Intelligence and Analysis for the Department of Homeland Security. So, Mr. Allen, I welcome you. And my first thought when I thought about this is, first of all, what kind of information does the government, have on me, and how are they gathering it in the first place?
Well, they don't have information on you unless there's reasonable belief or suspicion that you are engaged in extremist activity or terrorism. This is a slight revision of existing guidelines that were put in effect by the administration in 2009. It does not increase custody of new information outside the federal government that's not already there. It simply extends the period that we can retain those data, and it does give the National Counterterrorism Center, under the Director of National Intelligence, better ways to query data sets that may be held, say, for example, in the Department of Homeland Security, law enforcement agencies.
I thought we were talking, though, about ordinary American citizens. Whether you are suspected of something derelict, nefarious, or not, the government is pulling information on you.
If you've engaged in criminal activity, there may be data sets that we have reasonable belief contains information involving terrorism. The National Counterterrorism Center is focused on terrorism. It's not focused on a whole range of other activities outside of terror. So this is a revision, and it's not, to me, it makes really good sense, because radicalization occurs over a period of time. It doesn't always occur in 6 months. So if you have information that you've collected where there's reasonable belief that the person is engaged in terrorism, the person may actually not move to a point of where he becomes or she becomes an extremist until long after 6 months. You have to purge your files every 6 months. It doesn't make very much sense, given the length of time that radicalization may occur.
Understand. So they're gathering information before potentially charging someone, before you have that, I guess, major red flag that leads the government to prosecute. But what promise do we have that the government won't abuse this information if, let's say, this doesn't lead to a charge?
Well, there's all kinds of compliance and audit aspects to these guidelines. They've been there, and they've been reinforced even more strongly by this issuance, which was not only issued by the Attorney General, it's by the Director of National Intelligence, Jim Clapper. So this is intelligence. This is belief that someone is engaged in extremist activity. It's not dealing with law enforcement information per se at the NCTC, which is a counterterrorism center, but they can draw on data sets that are held, say, by law enforcement operating elements, say, in the Department of Homeland Security, through these new guidelines.
So, final question, 30 seconds. Given this news, though, this 5 years now we're learning from Eric Holder, compare President Obama to the man you served under, President George W. Bush. I mean, do they have more similarities on national security that many people initially would admit?
Well, in counterterrorism, they have a great deal of continuity, putting aside detention and interrogation issues, but talking about collecting, analyzing, and disseminating counterterrorism intelligence, I see a lot of continuity, and I think what has been issued by the Attorney General and by the Director of National Intelligence really is spot on. It's something that we need and intelligence needs.
Mr. Charles Allen in Washington, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And now in Washington, Wolf Blitzer, Situation Room starts now.